Hi everyone, I'm Kristen from Roots and Wildflowers, and today we're going to be planting some seeds. So I'm going to do a couple of different seeds. I'm doing tomatoes, some broccoli, Brussels sprouts, leeks, and eggplant. I'm going to be doing some of them in this 72 cell tray that I got. It's from Mackenzie Seeds, I believe. It's got a watering tray in the bottom and an actual cell tray, and it comes with a dome as well, which I'll be putting on top afterwards. And then I'm going to be using these Jiffy, I believe these are the 4 or 3 inch pots that are compostable. And I have some yogurt containers that I've just poked holes in the bottom of them that I'm going to be trying out as well for, I believe, some goji berries. So I've got a couple of different things we're going to plant out today, and I'm going to walk you through how I do it. Seed starting is fairly simple. There's not a lot to it. Just follow the instructions on the back of the packets and you're pretty much good to go. So first, I'm just going to move this aside. I'm not doing anything super special with mine. I'm just using a Pro Mix Premium Organic Vegetable and Herb Mix as my starter. It's organic. I know a lot of people will actually like mix dirt and like cocoa or peat or different things like that to do their seedlings or plants in general. I'm not that sophisticated yet, so I'm just using a simple bag. So I'm just going to use this bag of Pro Mix because I don't feel like actually trying to mix anything. I don't know ratios yet of what you would use, and this is just a lot simpler for me to go to the hardware store and grab a bag of this, or a garden center. So I've used Pro Mix in the past for my containers, for my herbs, and it's worked really well. So this is tried and true for me, and I'm going to use this. Now I have a big bucket that I got from the dollar store. You're going to want a big container to mix this in because you're going to have to get your soil wet. When soil starts to initially have water on it that hasn't been moistened, it'll become hydrophobic. So all of your water will sit on top and it won't actually get to the roots or down to where your seed is. So it's best to really pre-moisten your soil before you put them in your trays or your containers for starting seeds. That way you know there is moisture retained, and when you start watering them, they will actually wick that up. So I'm going to pour pretty much all of this in here. Actually, maybe we're just going to do half for now. I'm not planting on everything today. So I've got my soil in, and I've got a nice watering can here, and I'm just going to add water until it's moistened. Now, you don't want it sopping wet, because that went everywhere. But you do want it to be nice and damp. I'm going to have to add more dirt to this. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so I've mixed my soil, and this is the texture it's going to be. You want it squishy and wet when you squeeze it, but not totally dripping. So it's nice and damp, but it's not so absolutely dripping wet, which is exactly what we need. So I've got that. First, I'm going to pot up, I think, some of these, and then I'm going to do a few trays of that 72 tray cell. So I'm just taking these. I'm not putting holes in the bottom of them. And I'm going to pack this in. Not super hard, but tight enough that we want strong roots to grow. There we go. Now that is ready for us to plant it. So I've finished filling these, and now I'm going to go on filling my cell tray. So I'm just going to put this on top of the cell tray and kind of smush it in. I'm only filling part of it today because I have more that I'm going to plant next week, and I'd like to put fresh soil in then that's just mixed so it stays nice and damp. And you're going to make a mess when you do this, so be prepared. Might be a fun activity with kids. So you're just going to keep covering it until they look like they're all the way full, and then I'm going to tamp them down. Make sure that they're nice and compact. Okay, so I filled my tray. I actually snapped it in half because I couldn't. I was able to do that, and I made sure that they were filled pretty well with soil, not too compact because you want your seed to have room to grow, but also full enough that it has soil for the nutrients. So we've got this seed tray, and I've got some of these. First, I'm going to do some tomatoes. Now, to poke holes, you can really use anything. You could use your finger. I'm just going to use a reusable wood chopstick. And I'm going to poke a hole right in the center of it and right in the center of the cell when I do this. So first up, I'm going to do some Roma tomatoes. I'm going to do 4 or 5 of these. I'm going to put multiple seeds in each one just in case the germination rate isn't that high. Okay, so I'm using this chopstick, and I'm just going to put a little hole in the center. And the seed spacing on this, or the seed depth, I should say, actually, is 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just going a little bit in with this chopstick and making a hole. And the back of the seed packet will usually tell you the seed depth when you plant. So, open this guy up. We're going to grab some seeds. So I'm probably going to put 3 or maybe 4 seeds in each one, because we want to make sure that at least one germinates. Maybe 4. And then you're just going to lightly cover it up. And what you want to make sure you do is label it. So I've already grabbed these little labels and put Roma on it. I'm going to label this one, and I'm going to put R just on the rest of these so I know what they are. And try and keep them in a line so it's organized. Okay, so now that I have all of my little tomatoes potted up, I'm going to move back over to my potting, or my cell tray. So I'm doing a couple of different things today. I'm going to do broccoli, Brussels sprouts, golden peppers, some eggplant, and leeks. And I'm essentially just going to do a row of each. That way I know if one of the plants doesn't germinate, I have some backups. So same thing goes with these as you did with the tomatoes. You're going to look at how deep the seed is supposed to go. So this one is 1/2 inch. We've got another 1/2 inch. This is another 1/4 inch. 1/4. And another 1/2. So every seed's going to be different that way. Just read the back of your packet. And what I'm going to do also is write out the names for all of these before I start. That way I don't get mixed up and I can get things going. But otherwise it's going to be really simple. We're just going to do the same thing we did for the tomatoes and get planting. So now I've got everything labeled. And we're just going to start popping a couple seeds in for each. So first up is leeks. I love leeks. I love making soup with leeks. And this is another thing where I really advocate that make or pick seeds and things to grow in your garden that you actually cook with. So leeks we love to make soup with. My boyfriend especially loves them. What was the depth for this one? Okay, so this is 1/2 inch. So we're going to go a little bit deeper than the last tomatoes. We're just going to make a hole with our chopstick. Tap some out and put them in. Now, why I'm worried about these hex trays is that I'm going to have to plant up in these, which is another reason why I put the tomatoes in these. I still could have started them in a little bit bigger, and thinking about it now, I would have actually done a bigger container for tomatoes. My cousin almost always does it in red Solo cups. And I don't think I would have to pot up at all with that size. We'll see how these do. I am starting these tomatoes late, about a week and a half later than I had originally intended. So we'll see how well they do. I'm hoping they do okay. Tomatoes are pretty resilient, so we'll see. But I do think if you start slightly later, you can be at a bit of a disadvantage. But also, you don't want your tomatoes blossoming inside before they can be moved out for your last frost. So, and I'm still going with that June 1st, just because we're still getting below 0 temps here right now. It's very cold outside today, so it makes me happy thinking about the garden doing this right now. So yeah, that's preference. We just talked about what we wanted to do here to be safe, and I think we decided, talking to my dad, we were like, yeah, let's start it a little bit later, because there's no use of these plants being indoors for a really long time. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups that people have had their plants like for a while. I've seen people that have, I don't know if it was cucumbers or zucchinis or what, but they were already blossoming, and I was like, man, I don't think I would want things to be blossoming like that already inside. Okay, another 1/2 inch for Brussels sprouts. And if you don't have like these little markers, use popsicle sticks. Use anything that you have at the house. You don't have to do something special. I just got these. These are really cheap, I believe, from the dollar store. You can reuse things. I'm hoping with these I might be able to wash off what it says. Actually, kind of don't hope, because I'm going to water. If I ever overhead watered, it would cause a problem. With these cell trays, I won't. I'll be doing the watering from underneath. They have little drainage holes in them, and that's what the tray is for. You bottom water and then it wicks up towards the seed. It's better that way. Again, soil is hydrophobic, and even though we did moisten it, when it's fresh soil, I mean, even though we did moisten it, it might not fully soak into the seed, or into the soil. So it's best to bottom water seedlings and get those trays. And that's why I'm using this one. Again, I kind of do wish I didn't do the 72 cell. Did the large or smaller size with like maybe 48 or 32. I think those are the sizes. Don't quote me on that. Because then I wouldn't have to pot up. With a lot of these, I'm going to have to pot up soon, once I know which germinated. Okay, we have a mess, but we're done. These are all finished. So now what I'm going to do is put them back in this tray. And once I see that the water, or these trays are starting to dry out and they're becoming a lighter color, I will bottom water this tray. So fill this tray with a little bit of water, let it soak for a couple of hours, then double check that there's not too much water sitting at the bottom. I'll dump out anything that's left because we don't want like root rot or, I don't know if it's called dampening off. It might be, dampening off might be to do with the lid. We don't want it to start to rot out because there's so much going on in there. So I've got this in here, and I've got my humidity dome, and we're just gonna put that, I might push these down a little bit more. And they're gonna sit like this until I start to see something to germinate. So as soon as you start to see something pop up and you have breach of the soil with the seeds, you're gonna take this off and you're gonna put them under a light. So I still have to figure out a way with my greenhouse to make sure that the light is only 2 to 3 inches above the soil. If I figure it out, I might do a small short video on that. But essentially, yeah, you just want to make sure that these guys have light on them and that they are, if you don't have actual lights, you can definitely try and use a window. I know a lot of people actually use, instead of heating pads for their seeds, they'll use like radiators and like warm spots in their home. So me, I'm going to test out my new heating pad that I got, the plant seed one. We're going to put it underneath, see how that goes for these guys. And then I'm not sure how I'm going to dome my tomato plants. But I think just being in the greenhouse that I do have that ability to zip it up. I might do that and see if that's enough of a humidity dome for it, even though it's not directly sealed. I might also put some in here if they're not too tall, and then we'll go from there. But this is everything planted up for this week. So we've got a little bit of variety there. We've got a couple of each. I probably won't need all the plants that I planted for this. So it's good to always have a little bit extra. I'm not like going overboard with a ton extra. I know some people do, but I just don't feel that's necessary this year. If something doesn't go, that's fine. We'll put something else in there that we can direct seed it into the garden later on. So this is what we've got so far, and I'll keep you guys updated on their progress of how they grow. Thanks for joining me today. See you guys later.